What if I told you that humanity didn't go to space just to explore? Not purely for science, and not even for the dream of touching the stars. No, the shocking truth is far darker. Humanity's first steps into space were driven by fear, rivalry, and political desperation. It was a race where every decision carried the weight of life and death, a race fueled by secrets, espionage, and technology so advanced it terrified the world. This is the real story behind the space race. The year was 1945. World War II had just ended. Cities were in ruins, millions were dead, and the future seemed uncertain. But beneath the rubble, two superpowers were rising: the United States and the Soviet Union. They didn't trust each other. Not a little, not a lot, but completely. Every political move, every military test, every technological advance was seen as a potential threat. And they weren't just competing on Earth. They were about to take the race into the heavens. Here's the terrifying part. Both nations captured German rocket scientists after the war. Men who had built the V-2 rockets, weapons that could strike cities with terrifying precision. These scientists were brilliant, but they had also been part of a horrifying war machine. And now, they were working for the world's new superpowers, dreaming of rockets that could leave Earth. The seeds of the space race were planted in secrecy and fear long before the world even realized what was coming. October 4th, 1957. The Soviets launched a small silver sphere into orbit. It was called Sputnik, a simple satellite, just 183 pounds, yet its faint radio signal was enough to terrify the United States. Beep, beep, beep. The sound echoed across the globe. Suddenly, Americans realized if the Soviets could send this small object into space, what else could they send? Missiles? Weapons? Nuclear warheads? Panic spread. Schools conducted nuclear drills. Families built fallout shelters. The U.S. government scrambled, desperate not to fall behind. And in that moment, space was no longer a frontier of wonder. It became a battlefield. The space race wasn't about exploration. It was about survival. Both nations raced to send the first human into orbit. The Soviets were bold. They sent dogs into space, testing the limits of life and engineering. Some dogs survived, others didn't. Meanwhile, the United States was struggling. Rockets exploded on launch pads. Astronauts faced risks that were almost unimaginable. Every test flight was a potential disaster. And then came Yuri Gagarin on April 12, 1961, the first human in space. From inside the Vostok 1 capsule, Gagarin orbited Earth. He looked down at the planet, spinning silently beneath him, and said words that would echo through history. "I see Earth. It is so beautiful." But here's the hidden truth. His rocket almost failed. The life support system had malfunctions. One wrong move, one tiny miscalculation, and Gagarin would have been lost forever. Yet the world celebrated. The Soviets had won the first great milestone of the space race. The United States had fallen behind. The world watched in awe as the Soviet Union led the way. President John F. Kennedy made a promise, one that seemed almost impossible. On May 25, 1961, he stood before Congress and declared, "We choose to go to the moon before this decade is out." Heroic words, but behind the scenes, NASA was terrified. The technology barely existed. Rockets failed constantly. Astronauts risked death daily. Engineers worked around the clock, sleeping only a few hours a night. The Apollo program had already claimed its first lives. The Apollo 1 fire in 1967 killed 3 astronauts during a test. But the mission went on. The race could not stop. The stakes were too high. If America lost, it wasn't just a loss of pride. It was a potential loss of global dominance. Every rocket launch became a gamble with human lives. Every mission carried the weight of a nation. July 20th, 1969. The world held its breath. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins. They weren't just astronauts. They were pioneers stepping into history, climbing aboard a rocket taller than a 36-story building, filled with thousands of gallons of explosive fuel. The descent to the moon wasn't smooth. Alarms sounded. Fuel was dangerously low. The lunar module computer was overloaded. Armstrong made a split-second decision. He took manual control, flying over jagged rocks, searching desperately for a safe landing spot. With just 17 seconds of fuel left, the Eagle touched down. "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The eagle has landed. Humanity had made it to the moon. The world celebrated, but few knew the full danger of that moment. One miscalculation, 1 second of hesitation, and the mission would have ended in catastrophe. Here's the shocking truth. Humanity didn't go to space purely for exploration. We didn't go to touch the stars. We went because two superpowers were terrified of each other. The space race was a political weapon, a psychological battle, a competition that risked countless lives to prove technological supremacy. Yet, from this dangerous rivalry came incredible benefits. Satellites that track our weather, GPS that guides millions every day, communication satellites that connect the world, and perhaps most importantly, a perspective shift. From space, Earth looks small, fragile, and shared by all of us. The space race began with fear, paranoia, and rivalry, but it ended with humanity taking its first steps into the cosmos. A reminder that even in our darkest rivalries, even when the stakes are life and death, humanity can achieve the impossible. And maybe, just maybe, the stars aren't so far away after all. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more hidden histories.